So Alberta and the federal government moving forward on energy cooperation. One of the big aspects of this is federal support for a new oil pipeline to the Pacific. Let's get more from Grace Wilton, Senior Energy Advisor at Enpro. Grace, thank you very much indeed for joining us. One thing I wanted to ask you, RBC research indicating that for now it looks like there is plenty of pipeline capacity for Alberta, but obviously the province has ambitious goals over the years to grow production.
Sorry, yeah, there is pipeline capacity. Are you talking about, in particular, Premier Eby's claims that there's enough capacity and that perhaps there isn't sufficient need for another pipeline?
That's one of the arguments he's been making. Yeah, could you look at that, please?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there is capacity for sure, but there's definitely a market for more bitumen in the Asian markets. Right now, that pipeline carries oil in its various forms, right? So it has to be mixed with other NGLs, natural gas liquids, in order to be able to be moved through that pipeline. My understanding is that there's definitely a market for more oil, in particular bitumen, in the Asian markets. And it has been a function of some of the regulatory burdens or obstacles that are there that make it less attractive, let's say. So the oil and emissions cap, for instance, that kind of puts a damper on production up until now to be able to produce enough to export more oil. Does that make sense?
Yes, and of course we are talking extended timelines here. It's going to be probably into the next decade before we did get a new pipeline, by the time they get the darn thing approved and built.
Yeah, so they're saying, word around the water cooler is 2029 earliest, which is pretty quickly, right? But what is part of this memorandum of understanding, and I'm not sure what you've already covered with your viewers, but it's basically a roadmap to fast track the pipeline. So once it basically has to be presented to the Major Projects Office by July 1st, 2026. It doesn't only include this pipeline, it obviously also includes the carbon capture and utilization and storage pathways project. So it's definitely a bilateral agreement that has been made that actually has further implications than just this pipeline. Because of all of the complementary regulatory lifting, there has also been Enbridge and TMX and another South Bow, I believe, have already wanted to be transporting more oil. So to the tune of something like, what have I got here? 1.4 million barrels of oil. That's a lot. Anyway, this whole memorandum of understanding yesterday has really put some wind in the sails of Alberta for sure. It is a win-win, I think.
Just on this new possible pipeline, it's expensive to build pipelines in BC. We learned that from the Trans Mountain expansion. That thing went, as you know, above 30 billion in costs. So will private industry be willing to take on that risk of massive cost overruns?
I think so. That pipeline that you mentioned, basically Canada bought that pipeline because of the clunky, for lack of a better term, regulatory procedure, right? So I think this whole process of having the Major Projects Office, I mean, it's not the ideal solution for a lot of people, but it's a solution. And it's a path forward to actually try to fast track things. I get that these projects up until now were already inked and pretty well done, but not over the finish line. And we've had plenty of examples. Case in point, that one pipeline that cost over $30 billion, where it's so expensive and so burdensome that the federal government has to buy it in order for it to cross the finish line. In so doing, they learned a lot about what is appropriate and what's not appropriate, let's say, in terms of regulatory in terms of regulations that have to be followed in order to complete. So, I mean, it's a win. Now, I think that the climate is there to welcome industry, to welcome a proponent, to invest in that pipeline if they see the case. Like right now, they've cut out the tanker ban so that if there's a bitumen pipeline, it gets to go to the port and get to market. They've suspended the clean electricity regulations in Alberta so that they can expand the grid, which these facilities require a lot of electricity, and they need the regulations lifted in order to be able to have the freedom to build. And that's what a proponent's looking for, is to be able to see that the government is not holding them down while they're trying to promote, business and growth, which we need in order to pay for the security that we've committed to, the security expansion that we've committed to. There's so many things that are associated with this. So long answer to your question. Yeah, I think there will be a proponent, but that's remaining to be seen. And if there is, there is. If there's not, there's not. But you know what? There's also a lot of lifted regulations that are just going to help industry, period. And I mean, to hear Danielle Smith be excited about the carbon capture, utilization, storage pathways project, I mean, it's good news all around.
Grace, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Nice to see you again.
Thanks. Ditto. Grace Wilton, Senior Energy Advisor at Enpro.